The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, just gave us a pretty stern warning. It really is going to hamper the way we do things around here. I want to get you up to speed on what we're doing, and I really like for you to pay attention, because this DHS thing, I mean, it could affect any one of us. You, me, but definitely is going to be a problem for me. As you know, I have been working on my solar panels this spring. I got them moved up the hill here, and I got them all cleaned up and working really efficiently. And I was getting all the amps I need out of it now. So recently I've been able to start running my well pump off the solar panels, and Carolyn's son is running the air conditioner off the solar panels. I felt like I knew quite a bit about my system and what I was doing, but here recently I've learned quite a bit. I also learned that Amazon falsely advertised the charge controller that I bought. They said that it was a 60 amp charge controller. Their webpage still says it's a 60 amp charge controller, but the reviews down at the bottom, all of them said there was 40 amps, which is what I'm getting, 40 amps. Now I have 50 amps worth of solar panels. I just bought 2 new solar panels, which would have given me 60 amps. Well, I can only run 40 through the charge controller, so really it didn't do me any good to buy the extra solar panels, except on cloudy days, of course, when I'm not getting the maximum amps out of my solar panels. I would have still gotten more amps with the 2 solar panels. So I went ahead and bought a second charge controller. It's identical to the one I got. I know that I should be upset with the company that they lied to me, but I do like the charge controller, even though it's not producing enough amps. It is really a nice charge controller. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run 2 systems into one battery bank. So right now, all 50 amps are going into one charge controller. When I get the new charge controller, I've already laid the wiring out. So I have 2 wires, one for each new solar panel, and it runs into a little ice cream box that I got here into one wire. And that one wire will go into the new charge controller. Now, since I'm already running too many amps into the current charge controller that I own, I'm going to disconnect 2 panels from the charge controller that I currently have. I'm going to put it into the new charge controller, so that will give me 4 panels going into the new charge controller and 8 panels going into the old charge controller. That'd be 40 amps for one charge controller and 20 amps for the other. That also allows me to expand the system even more, so I could get up to 4 more panels to put on the new charge controller. So the way it works is I have 8 batteries, and they're all connected to each other, positive, 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 negative, 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 negative. And that gives me 800 amp hours, but you divide that by 2 because these lead acid batteries only give you 50% capacity, so that's 400 amp hours. So I'll have 2 charge controllers going into the battery bank. Now, I know for a fact you can do that. Not only have I seen other off-gridders and YouTubers talk about having multiple charge controllers, I currently will charge my batteries with my solar panels. And so if you look at your battery charger, your car battery charger, you can run it to the same battery bank. So you got your charge controller coming to the battery bank, and you got your battery charger coming to the battery bank. And they work in conjunction with each other. They both can read what the batteries are doing, and so it sends electricity to the batteries accordingly. It understands what's going on. The charge controller is basically a battery charger that you buy from Walmart. Plug it in the wall, charge batteries, positive and negative. So that's what your charge controller does. And if you get an MPPT, you can find one. It says 60 amps on Amazon, but it's actually 40 amps for $80-something, and then with taxes it came to $95. Like I said, I really like it, and it really does a good job. It's just unfortunate that it wasn't what it was advertised. So now the other thing that I've done is I'm going to have these 2 new panels movable. You can see that I've ran a lot of wire. The way I did it, just so you understand, is I'm just going to use, this is a house wire, and I had some left over, and it's I think 12 gauge. So it's going to be more than enough. You don't even need 18 gauge for one panel. It's only 5 amps per panel. So I'll run the black as negative, the white is positive, and I'll run that into the charge controller. Then I'll have the other panel going to the other wire. Like I said, it goes into a single strand underneath the solar panels, and I got it in a ice cream box, and I'll silicone that real well so it'll keep the moisture out. That was one of the problems I'm having, is that the wiring starts to turn black, and I've done everything I can think of. I've bought that gel and different things, grease or whatever you buy for automotive wiring, and it doesn't seem like anything helps. And the thing is if you strip this off, you know, after it's been sitting out here for a year, you can strip off several inches, and all that inside the sleeve, inside that, will be black. So I figured if I could seal up an ice cream canister like that, maybe that'll help keep out the moisture. I doubt it, but I'll give it a try. But I'll still have a problem with this connection, because this will go right into solar panels, and that'll probably corrode, and I'll have to clean that off. But I do it once a year, and it seems to help. Now that the panels are on that tarp, it's going to make things a lot easier. It's just so much easier to find the wiring. I've begged people to buy solar panels, and I don't know if I'm getting the word out. I would suggest that today you go out and buy your solar panel. I really would. They're $80. You go on to Amazon, you type in Rich Solar, you get a 12 volt, 5 amp solar panel. That's 100 watts, because it's actually 20 volts. And over the last 2 or 3 weeks, I've made video after video about solar panels. So if you want to learn how to hook them up, simply just go back for the last few weeks and start learning how to hook them up. It's not that hard. And then of course, I told you that somebody would comment, they said, well, you need fuses. You got to have fuses on your DC system. Okay, I don't need more fuses. The charge controller itself has protections on it. This fancy one that I got, this MPPT, the one I really like, I have shorted out the wiring at the solar panels. I actually cross wire, you know, negative, positive, negative, and the charge controller senses that, and it shuts off. It zeroes out the amps, and then when it corrects, it starts to climb back up to where it's supposed to be. So there is a fuse or a sensor or something in that doesn't allow you to cause a short. It identifies it and stops it. And I didn't have to replace a fuse. And then your inverter has a fuse in it. So if you short it out, it'll pop out. So I don't see why I got to put more fuses in it. It just overcomplicates the system. And people would constantly overcomplicate it when it's so basic. So over the last, I don't know, maybe a year or two, I've been watching these preppers, and they're all talking about SHTF. And we're all going to end in a massive crisis. And they've been predicting like specific dates in which this was going to happen, and nothing has happened. And they keep hoping, and they keep praying, and they keep fear-mongering, and they keep telling you that the end is near. Financial collapse. We're going to have a hyperinflation. I feel like it could happen, but I don't want to sit here and constantly scare you into believing that it's going to happen. I just want us all to live happy and stress-free. So then they talk about this EMP that China's going to send over, and they're going to wipe out our electric grid. But then all last year, we kept hearing about substations being shot up by hoodlums or whoever. And so there was an actual problem, like, hey, you know, maybe we should actually focus on the real problems and not this, the whole world is coming to an end problem. And so then when I started discussing this, YouTubers came on and started criticizing me for not buying into the fear. But the only thing I was worried about was being able to get water. If something were to shut down the grid in this area, I needed to run the generator to get water. And it's always been a problem for me. So my solution has always been, I will can all the food in the freezer. Because we can food, all our meat products as we can. And so that was always been my go-to. As soon as the electric grid went down, if something were to happen, I'd immediately start canning. So that would give me 30 days to be able to can all my food, was my plan. And I would run the well off the generator, the propane generator, and continue to run the freezer off the solar panels until I got all the canning done. Now I have like 10 tanks of propane, 20-pound tanks. So I could last a very long time if I just ran the generator off. If the generator filling the IBC tank up every couple days. Last 2 months, so I got 10 of them, there's 20 months. So we're up to 2 years that I could have gotten water out. So I was in no real big hurry if something were to happen. But of course, I would have ran out all the gas that we had first, which I usually have 20 gallons of gas. And that would have lasted probably a month or two. Now, my dad lives a quarter of a mile from the Gulf Coast, and he's experienced several hurricanes, and electric always goes out. And you know what's surprising? Is he always comes out on the other side just fine. You know, when the electric grid comes back on, he's taking a shower every day, he's done everything he needs, he's got plenty of food, and he doesn't prep. I mean, he's not a prepper. He's just one of these guys like, well, it happened, I guess I'll do this. And so, like, he'll go over to the neighbor's house. Hey, can I borrow your generator? Yeah. Hey, what are you doing? Well, I'm going to disconnect my well from the house and hook it up to the generator. I'm going to get me some water. Well, can you do that for me too? Sure. It's your generator. I'd be happy to. Now, the problem with that idea is if it was long term, he would eventually run out of gas. But 2 weeks, that's usually what it takes to recover from the hurricane. But here's the thing that you got to think about. Is can you disconnect your well from the house and figure out how to plug it into your generator? It's one thing to say I got a generator, but how can you preserve the gasoline in that generator for any length of time? If you have one of those industrial strength generators, like 4,500 watts or whatever they are, you only get about 4 hours per gallon of gas. So if you're running that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you're just going to go through a ton of gas. Well, remember, the grid is down, so there's no gas to get. And so that was always my fear with the well. Eventually, I'm going to run out of gas. So once I got all the frozen food canned up, then I was just going to shut off the freezer. That would have given me plenty of battery to run the well off the solar system, the solar panel system. But now that I've got all this worked out, all these bugs worked out, I don't need to worry about that anymore. Now, of course, if there's cloudy days, I got to take that into consideration. And we still got winter that I want to think about also. I think with the 2 to 4 more solar panels, you know, I already got the 2 new ones. And then if I get 2 more, or even 4 more, I should have plenty to get me through the winter. And they're just not that expensive. You know, you're thinking $80 per solar panel. If you got one a month, if you could just afford one a month, that would be plenty to start getting your system into place. And you can add on to it. It's not that hard. So I'm going to see how we do on cloudy days running the well this summer. And if we do well, then I'll leave it as is. But if I see that I could use more solar panels, then I'll just buy another one here and there. I know I have a subscriber, and he sent me pictures of his system and everything. And he bought a solar panel. I think it was a solar panel. It might have been 2. And his batteries, and he's got it all hooked up, and it's nice and pretty. And I don't know what he's using it for. And he's got an inverter. So the other day he sent me a message and said, I think I'm gonna get another solar panel. And that's how you do it, is when you can afford another solar panel, just add on another solar panel. It really is kind of fun making your own electric. I watched this one YouTuber, and he cuts firewood. That's his primary goal, but he got some solar panels. Now, he had these professionally installed, and it's tied into the grid. But he says it's so much fun to watch the solar panel system change amperages and all that, and it really is. It is a real blast. I tell you, it's really exciting running this air conditioner and watching that. But the Department of Homeland Security sent out a warning. Now, I know they did it for political reasons, but regardless, it is something that we need to think about. But they said that there is a serious threat to our grid. I find this somewhat of a credible statement because they were doing it last year. I don't know why they only do it during the summer months. I guess because you need air conditioning. I don't know why they don't do it during the winter. Now the Department of Homeland Security is saying this could be a nationwide problem. And I'm thinking, well, I really don't have a problem. I was watching this YouTuber today, and he was talking about what are you going to do when you run out of gas? And he was just asking you a bunch of questions. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I kept thinking, well, I got it covered. Now that I can run the well, I am pretty much stress-free, which has always been the goal of my channel, is to find a way to reduce the stress and just live happy and not have to worry about any of it. If bad news comes out, hey, the grid went down. Okay. I mean, one time we lost electric in this area, and this is when the guy lived next door. He's moved out since then. And he come over, he says, you got any coffee? I don't have any coffee. And of course I was able to give him coffee, and we talked about solar panels and maybe I'll do the solar panels. Well, of course he never did it, but I didn't even know we were out of electric until he came over and said, there's no electric in town. You got any coffee? Of course we use a little percolator. So I think everybody should just strive to not even worry about the news. That's how you live stress-free. So I've clicked this up next box to take you to a video where I was talking about solar panels. So I hope I can inspire you to live stress-free when you're living your dreams. Thanks for watching.